Hey, how's it going? Today I'm talking about Dopey Race Part 3, Carb Loading.
This is Running to the Castle, a podcast for injury-prone Run Disney runners on a journey to running magical miles. Join me, Dr. Allie, as I share the secrets I've gathered as a runner, doctor of physical therapy, and coach. You'll learn the exact ways I get my clients to the castle strong without feeling broken or held together with KT tape as they cross the finish line.
Okay, this is round 2 of recording this, so I hope I remember everything. So I will talk about carb loading in just a second. I also am going to give a little life update. So at the day of recording this, it is December 31st, 2025. Happy New Year when you listen to this. It will be 2026 and a whole new year. I am talking about the Dopey strategy for race and everything like that to help you cross the finish line. Of course, I'm talking Dopey, so some of this is very much Dopey specific. But if you're listening and Dopey has already happened, or you aren't doing Dopey at all, this information is still relevant. Okay, little life update. So it's New Year's Eve. I live in Las Vegas. Royal and I, in general, aren't like party people. We are really like, let's hang out at the house. He can play video games. I play occasional video games. I crochet, watch some TV. We really like TV and movies. So that's what we will do. And we live in Las Vegas and it's a party town anyway. And it's really a party town on holidays. And it's really, really a party town on New Year's Eve. So we stay off the roads. So I'm recording this. I do have to go back out to the pharmacy to pick up some prescriptions for Royal. And because this morning I went to a million different stores. Not literally, but a lot of them. I was out shopping for like 4.5 hours. I'm making a gluten-free lasagna. Royal has celiac disease, so he has to eat gluten-free, among other food allergies, food sensitivities, specificities as well, because he is very particular, in addition to all of the other things. So he asked for gluten-free lasagna, and finding gluten-free oven-ready lasagna noodles that he can have is sometimes a challenge. And then getting a chicken sausage that's also gluten-free that he can have based on the other food sensitivities, allergies. I went to 2 Targets, our Smith's, which is a Kroger. It's just a standard grocery store, Whole Foods, Costco. I didn't have to go to Sprouts, but it was on the route if I did need to go because I thought I needed to go. But Target and Whole Foods both had gluten-free lasagna noodles that he could use, and I'll use the ones that I got from Target. But also, gluten-free Cheez-Its are a thing. Literally, as of like 3 days ago, they were announced by Cheez-It earlier this year saying that they were coming 2026. Our local Targets actually have them in stock and limited supply in stock. And I didn't have time yesterday to go grab them for him. And now I feel really, really bad because they're sold out everywhere except for one of the Targets. And I literally called them because I went to the first Target, checked it out, thinking maybe the app was glitching, whatever. It wasn't, couldn't find them. But actually, now that I've said this, with the story I'm going to tell about this next Target, maybe it was glitching. Anyway, so sat in the parking lot of the first Target, called the other Target that it said limited supply, called them, spoke with guest services, and asked them to look it up. And they said, yep, it's here. It's in the crackers and chips section. I said, great. I was 10 minutes away. I drove, got there, went to the area that he told me to, found the Cheez-Its, could not find the gluten-free Cheez-Its. But there were employees everywhere stocking everything. So I went up and I asked an employee, and Juan was very nice and very helpful. We still came away with no gluten-free Cheez-Its, but he was running around, asking people, checking things, going in the back. We were walking up and down aisles. He could see it on his phone that they existed and they were supposed to be in a certain area. We were in the certain area, but that whole area, like, was being stocked. So there were boxes and boxes and boxes, and just it was in disarray. It was not ready to be shown to the public, even though, of course it's part of the area. But anyway, that's what it looked like. And so I'm like looking at boxes, trying to read, does it say Cheez It? Could he open it for me? Da 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 da. Anyway, he couldn't find them in the back, and talked to his team lead. His team lead said, actually, I'm looking for them too. And I think what happened is they were delivered today. They have, like, they're still all in the back, however they come as shipment. They are not ready for us to distribute yet. They are not ready for us to put on the shelves yet. And so ultimately, I did not walk away with these gluten-free Cheez-Its. But I will go back, probably later today, because I don't want them to be gone tomorrow, because the Juan said that there were four available. So I asked what four meant. Is that like 4 boxes or 4, I don't know. It's not a pallet, but it's like the box of boxes, right? And there's 12 in a standard Cheez-It grouping, because I saw those as they were stocking them. They came in shrink wrapped 12s. And he was like, it's most likely like this, because they come on a pallet. When you ship it on a pallet, this is how many they do, and da 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 da. And I was like, okay, so there's potentially 48 boxes. He says, yes, because there should be 4 of this. I was like, okay, great. Logistically, when do we think they'll be stocked? Are we talking like today, or are we talking like next week? And he goes, no, probably by the end of today. End of the day today. So he was like, or tomorrow. But logistically, that's how quick this turnaround is. And I was like, okay. So texted Royal, said, okay, this is what happened. Good news and bad news. We'll go back. Luckily, this Target is like 10 minutes from me. I live in the suburbs of Las Vegas, so I don't live like on the strip. I live 30 minutes off the strip, 30 minutes away from the airport. And it's very much suburbia, and we have Targets galore, and we have grocery stores galore. Like, I'm not in the middle of nowhere, and I'm not just in the typical Vegas scene either. So I will probably go out there later today, or at least first thing tomorrow, if they're open tomorrow. I actually have to check to see. I don't know their store hours. Either way, first thing Friday. Then, so I texted Royal and I said, okay, now I need to get to the pharmacy before the pharmacy closes, because it was 12:33. Our pharmacy closes from 1 to 1:30 for lunch, which is fine. I've seen some discourse on Discord. I've seen conversations online where people complain about the fact that they close for half an hour. I totally get it. They need a pharmacist in order to dispense medications. Totally get it. The one problem I have with this is my pharmacy is very inconsistent with their lunch breaks. So it says that they take it from 1 to 1:30. I will show up at 12 o'clock sometimes, and they've gone to lunch. I will show up at 2 o'clock sometimes, and they're on lunch. It varies. So it gets frustrating. And at this point, I am going to see what my options are for the mail-in medications for Royal. I rarely ever need a medication filled, but Royal takes regular medications. So we are there regularly. At least we have the 90-day supply now. But so I went last week. I went last Thursday, because it's the end of the year, and Royal meets his out-of-pocket max by like June 15th. So I was like, okay, well, you are going to need to refill these medications like literally January 3rd. So I was like, let's see if they'll refill them early, get it so we don't have to pay for them instead of I think it would be $300. Let's see if we can get it now. So went on Thursday, the day, or whatever the day after Christmas was. I think it was a Friday. Went on that day. All 4 were ready. And she was like, yeah, it's going to be like $300. Did you know that? And I go, I did see that on the app. but he met his out-of-pocket max. I'm not sure why that's happening. And so then she called over, I don't know, her supervisor or whoever it was, very nice person. Kyle helped me, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know what's going on. You should call them." I said, "Well, we did have an issue earlier in the month where they quote unquote accidentally, I whatever. Anthem accidentally started like for December 1st. I don't know how to explain this, but for December 1st, they made it like it was January 1st. So the out of pocket max reset. They actually changed our whole policy. We're supposed to be a gold. They moved us down to bronze, gave us an HSA instead of we don't have an HSA. And it was a big to do, and they screwed it up, and they should not have. And so took a little time to reset that. We got notification December 21st that it was all peachy, and on the app, online, everything went back to normal, what it was supposed to be. Out of pocket max was met again for him, and da 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 da. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go on the 26th. And nope, nothing, not right. And so that's when Kyle said, "Okay, we'll call Anthem and come back." And so I was like, "Okay, great." So I call Anthem. Well, they give me the runaround for 2 hours, literally from person to person. I got hung up on twice, had to call back. The first time I called, I talked to just like member services. She said, "Oh, I can't help you. I don't have authorization. I don't have status," whatever it was. "You need to talk to the pharmacy department." Well, she sent me to pharmacy, but she sent me to the Carillon pharmacy as if I was getting my prescriptions from them, and she couldn't do anything. And then she hung up on me. And then no, excuse me, this time she sent me back to guest services, member services. And she was like, "Well, I can't help you. You need to talk to pharmacy." And I explained to her, like, "No, I've already done that. Give me the phone number, whatever." And so then she hung up on me. And then I called pharmacy again. And after some explanation, I got hung up on again. And it was 2 hours of just like the runaround. And so I was like, you know what? Maybe it just hasn't gone through the system yet. I'm just going to wait. So fast forward to today, Wednesday, December 31st. I make it to the pharmacy by like 12:40. Get in line. There's only one car ahead of me, and they're finishing up. A pharmacy tech helping me. And she's like, "Oh, did you see the price?" I said, "I did. Is it possible for you to re-ring it? I had a problem the other day." And as I'm saying this, now, of course, she's saying, like, talking into a phone, so other people can't hear, but the person walking by happens to be Kyle from last week. He recognized me, and he recognized the situation. So he immediately got on the phone and he goes, "What did the insurance say?" And I told him, they gave me the runaround, da 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 da. He goes, "I'm really sorry. I'm not surprised, but I'm really sorry." He was like, "Let me see if I can re-ring this for today's date and just see what happens." So he re-rang one of the four. It came back as $0 copay. He goes, "Seems that it likes today's date better. I'm going to re-ring all of these, but it's going to take some time. Can you go kill time?" And I said, "Well, I do need to go shopping in the grocery store." He was like, "Okay, great." And I was like, "But I'm looking at the time. You go to lunch at 1. Is this going to be done like before 1? Like, how much time are we talking? There's nobody in line behind me. I can't see the inside line." And he's like, "Oh, definitely after." So even though I made it to the pharmacy before it closed, they were actually there. They didn't take a different lunch time. I still have to go back. And so I need to go back today because it will be $0 if I go back today. But now that I'm saying this, I don't even know what time they close today. Shoot. Okay, I'm going to check. Okay, they close at 5 today. All right, well, it's 2:51. I'll just go right after this. So hopefully by the time you hear this, I will have the prescriptions. Um, So that's fun. And then I have a leaking dishwasher that has never not leaked. We moved into this house September 18th. Well, I guess we closed on it September 18th, moved in October 3rd, Taylor Swift Day for all those that celebrate, um, and Mean Girls Day for all those that celebrate. That was like the pinnacle day for me because I love both of those things, Mean Girls Day and Taylor Swift. Wonderful. Anyway, it has leaked from the get-go, and they've replaced 5 things. They have come 6 times. They canceled on me yesterday. It was a whole big thing. But I just want a dishwasher that doesn't leak. And it's supposed to be brand new. I moved into a brand new build home. And it has never not leaked. My goodness. And so I'm just so fed up, and they won't give me a new one. They said that they have to keep just sending somebody back until a technician back, somebody to fix it until the technician supervisor says that it's no longer like fixable. There's nothing else left to fix. I'm like, just replace the thing. At this point, we're probably costing them money because it's at no cost to me each time they come out, all of the parts, because it has the warranty. They're probably losing money all of these times that they have to send somebody out. So give me a new dishwasher. Anyway, it's also almost marathon weekend. So let's get into Dopey carb load. You can also go back. I will reference in the show notes that episode 65, How to Eat for 4 Days and 48.6 Miles, How to Fuel for the Dopey Challenge. I spoke with a registered dietitian, Stephanie Natchek, and she gave some great information. But I've also learned some more, and it will just be helpful, I think. You correct me if I'm wrong. Please let me know if this was useless. I'll make sure to never talk about it again. Or let me know that it's helpful. But the carb loading and fueling for Dopey. So Dopey specifically, but I will kind of mention in there the marathon, half marathon, and 10K. You really don't have to fuel or carb load for a 5K, with the caveat that if you are doing multiple races, you should fuel during the 5K and you should carb load on like the day leading up to the 5K if you're doing other races. But standalone 5K only, like I'm doing Disneyland 5K only, I won't carb load and I won't fuel more than like my normal water during that race. So, but if you're doing Dopey, you should fuel for the 5K. So what am I talking about when I talk about carb load? So carb load is literally eating carbs, carbohydrates, in the days leading up to your race. And so when I'm talking about carb loading and how many days of carb loading you need, I'm talking about in comparison to the longest race distance you are running. So when I'm talking about Dopey, I'm talking about a 4-day carb load, and that's 4 days before the longest race. So that's 4 days leading up to the marathon. So let's count backward. The marathon is on Sunday. So 1 day before would be Saturday, 2 days before would be Friday, 3 days before would be Thursday, 4 days before is Wednesday. So if you're doing the Dopey challenge, you should start carb loading 4 days ahead of time. You should start carb loading on Wednesday. How much carbs should you be eating? It's based on your weight. It's not based on how much time you will be spending on the race course. It's not based on how much of a race you're doing. When you start is based on how many miles, I just said how much of a race. That doesn't even make sense. I mean, how many miles you're running. So 48.6 miles, Dopey, that is where that 4 days comes into play. So it's based on your weight, and it's based on your weight in kilograms of body weight. Kilograms, to figure that out, you take your weight in pounds. So let's say 200 pounds. Divide that by 2.2 to get how many kilograms you weigh. Then you want to eat 8 to 12 grams per kilogram body weight. Okay? So an easy way to do that, 8 to 12, shoot for the middle. This is easy math here. Okay, shoot for the middle, aim for 10 grams of carbs per kilogram body weight. So once you find out how many kilograms you weigh, so for a 200-pound person, that is 90.9 kilograms. So easy math, if you're aiming for 10 grams of carbs per day, move the decimal place over. So 90.9 becomes 909. Okay, because we moved the decimal place over. If you weighed 80 kilograms, we're going to move that decimal place over. That's 800. So basically you add a 0 at the end of the number. So 90 kilograms, add a 0, 900 kilograms. Or if we're doing exacts, 90.9, we just move that decimal place over. So it's 909. That's the easiest math way to do it. You can also use the complete race day nutrition calculator that I have on my website. I will link it. It is $23, but I will link it and it does the math for you. You just put in how much you weigh and it does the math for you. You take that number. That is the number of grams per day of carbohydrates you should be eating every day leading up to your race. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you're aiming to get about 900 grams of carbs. If you have no reference point on that, a Gatorade is like 35 grams of carbs. Okay? A bagel is like 50 to 55 grams of carbs. Like a big Thomas's bagel, those fluffy bagels, 55 grams of carbs. So you will be eating a lot. You will be eating a lot of carbs. I highly recommend planning it out, either using something like MyFitnessPal, which is free, or I have on my complete race day nutrition bundle pack. You have options. It is bagel, Coke, orange juice, apple juice, vegetables, baked potato, sweet potato, pasta, things like that. It has the options and it has it calculated how many grams of carbs there are. And you just need to input how many you're going to have. Cosmic brownies, Pop-Tarts, Nerds gummy clusters, what your Starbucks latte would have. Things like that. And you just put in how many you're going to have and plan it out. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. It's really hard to chew that many carbs. So drink them. Gatorade, Powerade, juice, full sugar sodas. The biggest thing when you're looking for items to have, if you're not sure whether it has carbs, make sure it's at least not the zero sugar kind. So like you don't want a Diet Coke, you want a regular Coke. You don't want a Sprite Zero, you want a regular Sprite. You don't want low sugar orange juice, you want regular orange juice. Because you need the sugar. Carbohydrates are sugar. You have quick carbs and slow carbs. Okay? In other terms, simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. That talks about how they are digested, how quickly they are digested in the body. Simple carbs are digested very quickly within 20 minutes of you eating them. So that's things like candies, sodas, sweets. Think about Elf. He eats the 4 main food groups: candies, candy canes, candy corns, syrups. Those are all quick carbs. Thinking about things that if you gave it to a child and it made them hyper because of how much sugar's in there, that's a quick carb. That is a simple carb, fast acting, that will be digesting, and you will be using it within 20 minutes. Those kinds of things we want to really fuel with. We can carb load with them, but we can also carb load with complex carbs. Those are things that take longer to digest. So those are, more vegetables and things with fiber, some potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots, things like that. The pasta, it's going to take some time to digest that and break it down. And so it's just not as quick. Our body takes those carbs and stores them in our muscles. When they're in our muscle, it's in the form of glycogen, so it's stored there. And when you store glycogen, you also store water, about 3 times as much water. So you're going to feel a little bloated. You're going to feel a little heavy, mainly in your skeletal muscles. So in your legs, in your thighs, in your calf muscles. That's completely normal. You will use that you will use that glycogen. It's also known as energy. You will use that on race day. So you won't feel that way forever, but you may get to the starting line of the marathon and feel pretty heavy. Just like legs feel heavier. That will go away by like mile 3 once you've kind of gotten into the groove of things. And so think about what you want to eat at Disney. All of the Mickey-shaped pretzels are great. Wetzel's pretzels. You can look on the website to see how many grams of carbs are in these items. You can also use that bundle that I told you. It has a drop down, and I have very common items from Disney on there. You can also add your own to map out what you're going to use. And please remember, throw perfection out the window. Shoot for the moon, land amongst the stars. 80% is good enough. C's get degrees. Like, we're not going for perfection here. Because if you let perfection, and I'm a recovering perfectionist, this has taken me years to overcome. So you won't overcome it overnight. But when it becomes an all or nothing mentality, it must be perfect or not done at all, you end up hurting yourself. Because if you can't get it done 100%, then you're not going to do it at all. I'd rather you shoot for the 900 grams of carbs if you weigh 200 pounds. Rather you shoot for that number and land at 500, when if you didn't even shoot for that number, you'd land at like 100, right? The fact that you are being conscientious about it, the fact that you are doing a concerted effort to try to get to that number of carbs, you are going to be way better off than if you didn't plan it out from the get-go. So plan it out, mark out what 900 grams of carbs looks like, how many cosmic brownies you need to eat, how many Cokes you need to get. Like if Disney World, get one of those refillable mugs for the fountain beverages, and then just go get Sprite or lemonade. The Minute Maid lemonade, wonderful option. Plan for what you will need to be eating and drinking, and shoot for getting that number. And even if you fall short, that's okay. It doesn't need to be perfect, because you will be better off than had you not even tried. And then your race day will be even better. And I should have started off with this, but if you've ever felt things like nausea during or after a run or a race, feeling like you hit a wall partway through your race, like mile 8, 9, or 10 for a half marathon, 16 plus for the full marathon. If you've ever felt like, oh my God, I just cannot go anymore. I feel weak. I feel like my legs are lead, and I feel like I'm moving at a sloth's pace, even slower than I normally run. Because, of course, we're slow runners here listening to this podcast, myself included. But you're going even slower, or feeling like you're going even slower. Those are symptoms that you're not fueling enough either during the race or leading up to the race. So if you're running the marathon, it should be 3 days before the race, Dopey 4 days before the race, half marathon 2 to 2.5 days, 2-course challenge 2.5 days, maybe even that full to get 3 days, 10K 1 day, 10 mile about 2 days. 5K, if it's a 5K alone, I mentioned at the beginning, you don't need to carb load leading up to it. And then you need 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour past that first hour that you're on there on the course to fuel for your race. And it's not based on distance. So your amount is not going to be the same as Susie Q down the street. It's going to be based on how long you are out there. So if you're doing a 3.5-hour half marathon, that's going to be different than somebody who's doing an hour and a half marathon. It's going to be very different. Okay? But if you've ever felt nauseous, weak, lightheaded, dizzy, hitting that wall, then it's likely a fueling problem. And like I said, it's either during the race or it's leading up to it. And you're fueling, when you're on the race course, you are fueling for your future self. So even if you don't feel thirsty right now, take some electrolytes in, take some water in, take some fluids in. Even if you don't feel weak or lightheaded or like you need to take in fuel or that gel or your Nerds gummy clusters now, you are fueling for your future self. Once you feel dizzy, once you feel nauseous, once you feel thirsty, that's your body's way of telling you you should have taken something in an hour. So I recommend starting fueling at the 45-minute mark. So for a lot of my runners, you're at like 2.5 to 3 miles, right? Because we're at 15-minute per mile pace on race day, right? So that's about mile 3. And then every 20 minutes after that, at least every 20 minutes. But you're aiming for 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour that you're out there on the course. So if you run a 15-minute per mile, a good indicator would be the mile marker. Sure, you're taking in fuel a little early compared to what I just said about the 20-minute mark. But if you need a visual cue as a reminder, take something in every mile. And then it also doesn't feel like you're like shoving food or goo or Nerds gummies in your mouth. It does feel like you're eating constantly. That's okay. But if you need a visual reminder, do it every mile marker and just take a little bit in. And I do recommend planning out what you're going to have. So I talked to my Stronger, Faster Finisher group yesterday at length. I think we spent an hour and a half just talking about fuel and individual fueling needs. But talked about this, plan it out. So when you're packing, which is probably right around now when you're listening to this, plan out, get a small Ziploc bag per race. So 5K, 10K, half, and full marathon for the Dopey challenge. Each pack, each Ziploc bag has the amount of carbs you need based on what you anticipate your race finish time will be. So if it's going to be 6 hours, it needs to be 6 hours worth of fuel. Put that in a Ziploc bag and write marathon on it, and then how many grams of carbs that is. So if it's going to take you 6 hours, you need 330 grams of carbs. Think 1 gram of carb per minute, because 60 grams per hour, there are 60 minutes in an hour. 360 grams of carbs for a 6-hour marathon. You need 360 grams of carbs in that Ziploc bag, maybe even more. Just what if it takes you 7 hours? Okay. Same thing for the half marathon. If it's 3.5 hours, it needs to be 3.5 to 4 hours worth of carbs in that Ziploc bag. So then it's ready for you. You don't need to think about it at 2 a.m. when you're waking up at 2 a.m. 4 days in a row, right? Same thing for the 10K, same thing for the 5K. Do the same thing for your carb load. Bring the snacks that you are going to have. Bring them. Of course, you are going to be buying some things. So maybe for Wednesday, you have a gallon-sized Ziploc bag that says Wednesday, and then you have, your Cosmic Brownies, you have some Nerds Gummy Clusters, you have some Scratch 100 gram of carbs. So that's another way to do it. I mentioned different drinks, but if you drink Scratch and have done the 100 gram carb type Scratch, drink that as a carb load. But have it all in there, and then also write the other things you're going to buy. So, you're getting pasta for dinner, or you're getting something with rice or dinner rolls or, potatoes for dinner. Your lunch is going to be a sandwich from Earl of Sandwich, and this is how many grams of carbs it is. So you need that, and you need the potato chips, and you need this and the that, and the apple slices, and whatever it is. Write it on that Ziploc bag, and then it's all right there on the Ziploc bag. You don't even need to think about it because you've already thought about it. Okay? Make it easy for yourself when you're at Disney. And plan it out for all of the days that you're going to be there. What you're going to drink, what you're going to eat. It does take planning. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants until you've done this over and over and over and over again, and you know your routine. And of course, I think it goes without saying, but I should say it because I should say it. Nothing new on race day, nothing new race week. No new foods. Tried and true only. Nobody needs GI upset the night before or the morning of a race or during a race. Nobody wants to be constipated because they had gassy because they had cruciferous vegetables, or constipated because they had too much cheese, right? Like if cheese backs you up, which it does a lot of people, don't have pasta Alfredo for dinner the night before. Have pasta with a tomato sauce instead. Or if you can't do tomatoes because it makes you gassy or whatever, don't have that. Have a butter sauce, right? Like start planning it out. Nothing new race week. Tried and true only. Okay? I want you to have so much success. Take this information, go back, listen to it. I gave a lot of examples. If you want that complete race day nutrition bundle, go to the link in the show notes. It can be done. You can have a very successful Dopey. I've said it before, the hay is in the barn. All of the training is done. So what do we focus on now? We focus on carb loading, fueling during the race, and recovery tactics between races. That's really what you can actively do now. Because all of the training, all of the strength that you've done has hit. You've done it. You've done it. You can't do any more. And doing more of those things can harm you. So rein it in on those things, but really gear up on the fueling, the carb loading, and the recovery things. I talked about that the other day. Let me know how race day went. And if you're listening to this in real time, race day hasn't happened, we are doing a meetup. Thank you so much to Amanda for planning this out and organizing where it's going to be. Disney Springs, Friday at 2:30 by the Starbucks. If you're not sure, send me a DM, Run Disney DPT, over on Instagram, and I'll make sure you have the information of when and where to go. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to meet you. Come up and say hi. There will be some giveaways, and have so much fun on race weekend.